Okay, we're going to go into executive session for a few minutes, talk about the police department, and then we will reconvene. I'm sorry to keep you all waiting, but as I found since we started this little effort of ours, things are more complicated when you get down to the details. And when you're talking about people's livelihoods, we feel it's very important to be able to discuss things in private so that we can try to have somewhat of a consensus before we come before the people here. So, first thing that I'm going to do is we received one email from Andrew DeWolf. And he said, "Thank you for your diligent work since March 7th. You have an estimated date you will finish your work and send a plan to the village board for approval. And why do you believe you were unable to meet the June 25th statutory deadline on your June 27th deadline self-imposed?" As I just said, this is not an easy situation. We're talking about people, we're talking about health insurance, we're talking about things going on in the community, the need for the police department, staffing, fire department staffing. When we're making a recommendation, we want it to be a real recommendation. We could have rushed through this. We could have had it done 2 months ago if we just wanted to throw something at the wall. But we feel we're doing the best job possible. And everybody's taking this seriously. So that's why we didn't make June 27th. And hopefully tonight will be the final vote for recommendations. Information we turned over to MRB consultants to come up with the financial end of it. We're looking at a meeting hopefully July 11th where we will meet with one of the other consultants who will discuss options in case the village does not dissolve, to go through with each subcommittee just to give us more information. And we're not experts in this, so for us to sit here and say that this is definitively the best thing we can do, we like to have experts come in and give their opinion. So if they can come in on July 11th, we will have a meeting July 11th. Then it all boils down to how quickly the numbers can be crunched so we can turn it over to the village board. The village board usually meets the second Tuesday of the month. We're not going to they will have to have a special meeting if we get it done in before the August 8th or whatever meeting is. So hopefully by August 1st, we will have something to present to the village. That's a month late, but that's the best we could do. So now I'm going to have Brian wanted to make a few comments, and we will give him the floor to him.
Okay, one thing I'd like to say is, it's tougher than I thought it was going to be. I have the utmost respect for everyone around this table. This is a very tough committee, very tough job. I have a lot of respect for what the mayor's going through right now, and she's getting the brunt of a lot of things that's going on, as well as a lot of these committee members here. And what we discuss around here is very, very difficult, as Sergey just said. A lot of you guys are our friends, our family members, our residents in this community, and with the vote being so close of basically 51 to 49, no matter what we do, we're going to make half the people unhappy. But I just want you to know, and I think I can speak for this committee, none of the things that we talk about or do here is pointed to any one person or any individual or individual department. And as we make cuts and move forward, and if the dissolution goes through, I know for myself as well as the town board, we look at this as and I believe the committee as well, we look at this as a total commitment to Lyons. And just because you may lose your job in one department doesn't mean it doesn't open up another door in another department. And I won't promise a job, but I know the town board is committed to looking at the employees and hopefully making them fit wherever we can. So you may be a fire driver one day and maybe a dog warden the next. Just an example. No thoughts there. But, I just ask that you be patient with us, and I do owe an apology to Mr. Rios and Mr. Daniel Wolf. I come in last week late and I got a little frustrated. Not too bad, but I shouldn't have did that, and I do apologize to Jeff and to Dan. And I know it's a tough job sitting here as this committee, and some of the recommendations that we're going to make tonight are really tough. And just thanks for listening to us and allowing us to work together. And I'd like to thank everyone here, and especially the mayor. So, okay, thanks. Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next item of business is the dissolution date. Things of, due to the complexities of the situation of going through everything, we're looking at pushing the dissolution date to December 31st of 2015. That will give us time to transition departments out of the village into the town, as you know, like the fire department. The fire department can be set off into a fire district well before December 31st, 2015. And maybe the highway department will absorb the public works department prior to December 31st of 2015. But it just gives time for everything to get done. And the comptroller's office recommended that we dissolve on December 31st so that the town board will have time to have the budget figured for the following year.
Right.
So do you have anything else to add to that, or?
Well, for those who don't understand and question why it takes so long, we do have two different budget years happening here. The town's budget is January 1st through December 31st. Village budget is June 1st through May 31st. So preparation for that budget commences, you probably start in September. August, September. So we have to make plans for incorporating village cost, because these are going to be ongoing. So we want a full year for the town so that we're not budgeting for a half year. It will be much easier for the village of Lyons to budget for a half year than for the town. So it is it's a lengthy process, but there really isn't any way we can shorten it up. And I think this is going to put everybody in a better position if we have that extra 6 months for doing this dissolution. And the comptroller's office agrees with us that December 31st, 2015 would be a better date to finalize for dissolution.
But I think also what they were saying, the comptrollers, and I think the mayor and I agreed that in that time period, we really need to educate the taxpayers on, you know, why are they not going to be paying for this, but it's on my taxes on the town side. So it gives us some time to make that transition a little bit easier. Gives us some time to maybe have some meetings to explain how it's going to go and where it's going to go. That way there's not the confusion and, you know, why is my taxes here and I just paid this. So I think it's important to do that as well.
So we already had a vote last week about the dissolution date. So we need to rescind that and change that date.
Yes.
So per our current recommendation, December 31st, 2015 will be the dissolution date.
Okay. I'll offer the resolution.
All right. All in favor?
Okay.
All opposed? It carries. Okay. Next, we're going to go to the fire department.
Sergey, you want me to lead on this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll give you one go. Does everybody have one? I'll just let the I just let the committee kind of have a chance to look through this really quick. Just to inform the public, I met with Chief Darkangelis this afternoon for about an hour at the town hall, and I know there was some confusion on overtime, and some people think that they do get overtime, the paid drivers, and so I wanted to meet with Chuck. I'm sorry, Bob. I wanted to meet with Bob and just clarify a few things. And I was fortunate to see his W-2, and they're on a salaried position, so they do not get overtime. Maybe once in a great while, I was told, maybe a couple hours in a whole year they would get overtime, but they are a salaried position, and when their time is up as driver, it moves on to the next driver that is scheduled. So, and sorry if I use your numbers. So I did Bob's numbers this afternoon, and for the amount of hours, he works at 48 hours for 1 week, and the next week he works 58 hours. So that's 5-day coverage, 24 hours a day between two drivers. So for the chief, that's about 2,756 hours a year. Of course, you're going to have vacation in there. What that boils down to is about $17.96 an hour for the chief. And as we went over the numbers, there is no overtime for these guys. I think some of the overtime, looking at the village budget, some of that goes to their contract for holidays, and I don't know where the rest of the overtime money goes. I couldn't figure that out, but.
Well, every once in a while, in fact, I see here there's a couple of times that they went to water.
Yeah,
they did things for water, and I know just recently we had a problem with one of our pumping sewer stations, and they also spent quite a bit of time in confined space for the wastewater pumping station. So those are over and above that they put in. It's
So
not
what's
on
your
the regular
recommendation
shift.
for personnel?
Well, two meetings ago, we had the recommendation of moving it forward as the way it was. And I thought that was the consensus of this committee at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
2 weeks ago?
Well, we didn't have a vote at that time.
We didn't have a vote, but that was the sense.
There was a presentation.
Yeah, there was a presentation.
Okay. So unless there's any other consideration from this committee, I entertain that we move that forward at this time, unless there's some other.
So your recommendation is to leave the paid fire department, full and part-time people as they currently exist. 2 full-time and part-times to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and the other thing I did was I got some information from a few other towns looking at what they contribute to their volunteer fire departments, and with the amount of money that we give, I think we're very comparable to what they get, plus we get paid drivers. The other thing that I've talked to the chief about, and probably some committees, maybe Chief Bogan, some committee members here, is the other commitment I'm working on and will continue to push for is, because we have the county seat, because we have $55 million worth of county buildings here, for some reason, some way, they need to contribute to our fire protection. And I'm working on that. I'm working with the chairman as well as the county administrator. And the more I can get there, the less that will burden the taxpayers here, because we can lower our cost per thousand. The more they kick in, the less we have to pay. So that's the recommendation.
So the recommendation on the table is that we will continue the fire department, recommend the fire department continues as presently constituted with 2 full-time employees and enough part-time employees to cover all the gaps in coverage. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? It passes. Okay, now we get down to the fun part, the police department. I have a letter from Helen Weiner, which she asked me, I told her I would read at the meeting. I am responding to Thursday night's meeting in regards to the police department clerk's hours. I have watched all the meetings to find that I am the only village clerical employee that has not been approached by the Public Safety Subcommittee to inquire what my job duties consist of. The village and also the town clerical have met with the respective subcommittees who have made their recommendations to the committee. Now it is the police department at the table, and the subcommittee recommends a 20-hour work week for the police clerk. Question mark. I have worked for this position for 25 plus years, and I can say there is absolutely no way this job could be done in a 20-hour work week, especially if and when the police department should become town-wide. This workload will definitely be increased. So the police clerk's position needs to be looked at just as the other clerical positions before any recommendations can be made to the dissolution board. Thank you, Helen Weiner. So what we had some discussion during our executive session on how to proceed with the police department, and we're basically looking at the Madison Police Department's model, where they have 6 full-time police officers. That includes the chief, and recommend approximately 60 hours per week of part-time employees.
Was that 60 hours, John?
Yeah.
60.
And that would cover the same number of vehicles as we currently have. And we're also recommending a full-time clerk, as Massillon has. So 35 hours a week. So is there any additions, corrections, any comments?
I got one other comment.
Right.
And Chief, just make sure I'm saying this right. The other thing I want to clarify as well with the police department. Right now, because the police department has a union contract with the village, we really can't do anything to offset what they do because it's in their contract. But I do know that, speaking with the committee here, that as most of us know, because we live in Lyons, and because we have county presence here with some of their buildings, and we all feel that the county needs to step up and support us here through police services. And I think we will work correct, Chief? We will work towards having them help us in any way possible to burn that same cost to the taxpayers, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just want to hear.
No, but you and I have had discussions
Yeah.
about what I identify as unique county problem areas,
Yes.
that if we could get any commitment at all from the county, it would be a huge benefit to the town.
So I just want to be forth with this. So any commitment that we can get from the county to offset this cost and offset some of these services that we as village, I pay village taxes, village taxpayers pay, that would help offset some of the tax burden as well. So hopefully we can move that forward, and that's our
And
recommendation.
as a recommendation, we're looking at cutting the budget by approximately $300,000. Right now, it's 960,000. We're looking at maybe 630,000 with our recommendations. So, all in favor of the recommendations? Aye. I want to hear it. Raise your hand or say aye. I want to hear what you say. Opposed?
No,
You opposed?
I did.
Okay. So it passes
And I
7-1.
have to go on record
All right.
as abstaining as I
Yes,
discussed
chief is
before.
abstaining. So it's 6 ayes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Any comments from the consultants about where we're going from here and what your plans are? Now, all the subcommittees have reported, we're done. Now it's in your hands. Well, we were, obviously, if there's questions, call any of us. We're happy to come and sit down with you and go over any gray areas there might be in our recommendations. But we're hoping that there's enough information here now for you to go ahead with the main proposal. And then if there are, if we do meet on July 11th, we will only meet on July 11th if
Mr. Hattery.
Mr. Hattery can come. He's the consultant that was here on the very first meeting that we had to give us recommendations.
His expertise is in alternatives. He's worked with a lot of communities on alternatives. And what we've asked him to do is once the subcommittee recommendations were finalized, to review them, to help us identify any areas that he thinks could be strengthened. And then we asked him if he would come and actually address the full committee and offer any review or any commentary, but specifically address alternatives if he feels they need to be strengthened. So we'll give him some time to review, and hopefully he'll be available on the 11th. It'll take a little bit of coordination because he has duties at the University of Albany. So we'll work around his schedule, but I think he's going to do everything he can to accommodate you folks. So.
And you had some answers too back from the comptroller's office
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Are any of those on district? Did you ask them any?
Couple.
A couple are. So
Right.
we have plenty to start. I mean,
Right.
we have plenty of work to do. As those come in, that's going to help us with the calculations for district expenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, does any committee member have any comments they want to make? Chief?
Yeah, and it might be a little late to bring this up, but I think that two services that the Village of Lyons offers through the police department that's not offered by the town of Massena is the crossing guard and parking enforcement. And I think that there has to be some thought as to whether or not those services will still be provided, and if so, how.
Well, yes, good.
I spoke to a member of the Chamber of Commerce today, and I believe their next meeting is Monday. And the question that I posed that be asked at the chamber meeting was, how does the chamber feel about not having a parking enforcement officer?
The 2-hour parking, because the
Right.
business community was the driving force in that historically.
Right,
yes.
right. So I know we voted. However, I think it's very important that we get the input from the downtown merchants and the people who are affected by having somebody out there every couple of hours policing.
Well, as it now stands, the police officers that would be on duty would have to make their presence known and write a few tickets maybe. But we're if we keep going, we'll be right back where we were, so. And that's not the purpose. No. We're in a Tea Party part of the country where everybody wants expenses cut. They don't care about personnel, it's taxes. If you can cut their taxes, they're happy. So that's what we try to do. So, on that note, July 11th, 6:30, if we have a meeting, we'll get an email if there's not going to be a meeting. And on the website, there is the timeline for the how the dissolution process goes from here. As we said, if we can get 4 weeks after the village gets our recommendations, for 4 weeks it has to be published in the paper and on the internet. And then we will have a public hearing, and we will hear from all of you. And then it'll be reviewed again by the village, and they'll determine if any comments that made require us to change our recommendations. And then if there are, then it'll be another 4 weeks of publications. So I'm hoping to get this done as quickly as possible, that everybody loves our recommendations. So, as far as that goes, the meeting's adjourned.